all my friends. So I'm doing finishing up chapter 6 in First Kings. Solomon's building the temple. Okay, so we're on. We finished on chapter 16. He built the 20 cubits on this. Darn it! Got this camera. It's dark at my house right now because it's raining. And I didn't turn on the lights or anything, so hang on. And he built the 20 cubits on the side of the house, both the floor, the walls, the boards of cedar. He even built them for it within, even for the oracle, even for the most holy place. So can you imagine all the cedar wood? Oh, just the smell of it. I mean, wow. And the house that is the temple before it was 40 cubits long, and the cedar of the house within was carved with knops and open flowers, and all was cedar, and there was no stone seen. And the oracle he prepared in the house within to set there the ark of the covenant of the Lord. And the oracle in the forepart was 20 cubits in length, and 20 cubits in breadth, and 20 cubits in the height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold, so covered the altar, which was of cedar. So Solomon overlaid the house within the pure gold, and he made a partition by the chains of gold before the oracle, and he overlaid it with gold. Wow. How beautiful. And the whole house he overlaid with gold until he had furnished all the house. Also the whole altar that was by the oracle he overlaid with gold. And within the oracle he made 2 cherubims of olive tree, each 10 cubits high, and 5 cubits was the one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the other wing of the cherub. From the uttermost part of the one wing unto the uttermost part of the other were 10 cubits. And the other cherub was 10 cubits. Both the cherubims were of one measure and one size. And the height of the one cherubim was 10 cubits, and so was it of the other cherubim. And he set the cherubims within the inner house, and they stretched forth the wings of the cherubim, so that the wing of the one touched the one wall, and the wing of the other cherubim touched the other wall, and their wings touched one another in the midst of the house. And he overlaid the cherubims with gold, and he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers within and without. And the floor of the house was overlaid with gold within and without. Oh my gosh, can you believe? Man. And for the entering of the oracle, he made doors of olive trees. The lintel and side posts were a 5th part of the wall. And the 2 doors also were of olive tree, and he carved upon them carvings of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold, and spread gold upon the cherubims and upon the palm trees. So also made he for the door of the temple post of the olive tree a 4th part of the wall. And the 2 doors were of the fir tree, and the 2 loaves of the one door were folding, and the 2 leaves of the other door were folding. And he carved thereon cherubims and palm trees and with open flowers, and covered them with gold fitted upon the carved work. And he built the inner court with 3 rows of hewed stone, a row of cedar beams. In the 4th year was the foundation of the house of the Lord laid, in the month of Ziph. And in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, was the house finished, throughout all parts thereof, according to all the fashion of it. So was he 7 years in building it. Wow, that's so great. I just love that. Chapter 7. Building Solomon's house of the house of Lebanon, the house for Pharaoh's daughter, Hiram's works. But Solomon was building his own house 13 years, and he finished all of his house. He built also the house of the forest of Lebanon. The length thereof was 100 cubits, the breadth thereof 50 cubits, the height thereof 30 cubits, upon 4 rows of cedar pillars with cedar beams upon the pillars. And it was covered with cedar upon the beams, and laid on 45 pillars, 15 in a row. And there were windows in 3 rows, and there was light, and there was light against it in 3 ranks. And all the doors and posts were square with the windows, and the light was against the light in 3 ranks. And he made a porch of pillars. The length thereof was 50 cubits, and the breadth thereof was 30 cubits. And the porch was before them, and the other pillars and the thick of the beam were before them. And he made a porch for the throne where he might judge, even the porch of judgment. And it was covered with cedar from one side of the floor to the other. And his house wherein he dwelt had another court within the porch, which was of the like work. And Solomon made also the house for Pharaoh's daughter, and he had taken to wife, like unto this porch. And there were of costly stones, according to the measures of the hewed stones, sawed with saws within and without, even from the foundation unto the coping, and so on the outside toward the great court. And the foundation of this costly stones, even great stones, stones of 10 cubits, and stones of 8 cubits, and above were costly stones after the measure of the hewed stones and cedar. And the great court round about was with 3 rows of hewed stones, row of cedar beams, both of the inner court of the house of the Lord, and for the porch of the house. And King Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre, and he was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, and he worked in brass, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all the works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work, all his skill. And he had cast 2 pillars of brass of 18 cubits high apiece, and a line of 12 cubits did compass either of them about. And he made 2 chapiters of molten brass to set upon the tops of the pillars. The height of one chapiter was 5 cubits, and the height of another chapiter was 5 cubits. And the nets of the checkered work and the wreaths of chain work for the chapiters which were upon the top of the pillars, 7 for the one chapiter, and 7 for the other chapiter. And he made the pillars and the 2 rows round about upon the one network to cover the chapiters that were upon the top with pomegranates. And so he did for the other chapiter. And the chapiters that were upon the top of the one pillars were of lily work in the porch, 4 cubits. And the chapiters upon the 2 pillars had pomegranates, and above and over against the belly which was by the network and the pomegranate were 200 in rows round about upon the other chapiter. And he set upon the pillars in the porch of the temple, and he set upon the right pillar, and he called the name thereon Jachin. And he set upon the left pillar and called the name of thereon Boaz. And atop of the pillars was lily work, so was the work of the pillars finished. And he made a molten sea 10 cubits from one brim to the other, and it was round about, and his height was 5 cubits, and the line of 30 cubits did compass it round about. And under the brim of it round about there were knops compassing it, 10 in a cubit, compassing the sea round about, and the knops were cast in 2 rows when it was cast. And it stood upon 12 oxen, 3 looking toward the north, 3 looking toward the west, 3 looking towards the south, and 3 looking towards the east. And the sea was set upon them, and all of their hinder parts were inward. And I really truly believe that this emulates what is in heaven. Okay, you have 3 gates on each side of the walls of the New Jerusalem. Anyway, okay. Okay, and the parts were inward, and it was a handbreadth thick, and the brim thereof was wrought like the brim of a cup with flowers of lilies, and it contained 2,000 baths. And he made 10 bases of brass. 4 cubits was the length of one base, 4 cubits the breadth thereof, and 3 cubits the height of it. And the work of the bases was on this manner, and they had borders, and they had borders that were between the ledges, and the borders that were between the ledges were lions, oxen, and cherubims, and upon the ledges there was a base above, and beneath the lions and the oxen there were certain additions made of thin work. And every base had 4 brassen wheels, and the plates of the brass, and the 4 corners thereof had undersetters, and under the laver were undersetters of molten on the side of every addition. And the month of it within the chapiter and above was a cubit, but the mouth thereof was round after the work of the base of the cubit and half. And also upon the mouth of it were engravings, and their borders and 4 square, not round, 4 square. Okay, that's very important. And under the borders were 4 wheels, and the axle trees of the wheels were joined to the base, and the height of the wheel was a cubit and a half a cubit. And the work of the wheels was like the work of a chariot wheel. Their axle-tree, their naves, their felloes, their spokes, all were molten. And there were 4 undersetters to the 4 corners of one base, and under the setters were of the very base itself. And in the top of the base there was round compass half a cubit high, and on the top of the base the ledges of it, the borders thereof, were the same. And the plates of the ledges thereof, and on the borders thereof, he engraved cherubims, lions, palm trees, according to the proportion of every one, additions round about. And in this manner he made the 10 bases. All of them had 1 casting, 1 measure, and 1 size. And he made 10 lavers of brass. A laver contained 40 baths, and every laver had 4 cubits, and upon every one of the 10 bases 1 laver. And he put 5 bases on the right side of the house, 5 on the left side of the house. He set the sea on the right side of the house, eastward over against the south. And Hiram made the lavers and the shovels and the basins. So Hiram made an end of doing all the work that he made King Solomon for the house of the Lord. And the 2 pillars and the 2 bowls and the chapiters were on top of the 2 pillars, and the 2 networks to cover the 2 bowls of the chapiters, which were upon the top of the pillars. And they had 400 pomegranates, 2 networks, 2 rows of pomegranates, and 1 network to cover the 2 bowls of the chapiters that were upon the pillars, and the 10 bases. And I'm going to stop right there, for chapter 43. I'll finish this a little bit later. And these chapters are very long, and you can just imagine all of the craftsmanship. They didn't have machinery, okay, back then. At least they had it. Never mind, I'm not going to talk about that. It's a whole different thing. But, you know, these were all craftsmen that knew their craft very well. So you can imagine these are handmade stuff, okay? So it must have been just gorgeous. And you could probably see this thing glitter from miles. All right, talk to you later. Bye.